Hello everybody and a warm welcome to Berringer, and I have a layout update and a how-to tutorial all in one, and also a new addition to show you. So without further ado, we'll get on with it. Here we are at the station end, and as I said to you, as we start working on the ceiling project, there'll be a number of special projects and how-tos to show you along the way, and this is going to be a how-to tutorial bit. And directly in front of you, as you can probably see, is the B&Q just slightly on the top there, and then we've got the underground station right through the tunnel there, as you all know. Now, since the underground section has been done, I've now moved this a stage further, and if I show you the lift out section, you can see that this is a lift up flap, and it now starts to run all the way into, it hasn't quite made it yet, into the dressing area, but this is as far as we've got so far. But it's all been electrified, it's all working. The lift up flap goes up and comes down, and I'm just going to show you how I've done that and the system that I've been using. Now if I come to here, this is probably the easiest one to get to, in all honesty. This is called the copper clad sleeper system that I've been using, and it's a good way of doing joins between sections, because before I was just using the sleepers, the plastic sleepers, and what tended to happen is that the chairs would break on the joins through the manoeuvring and the lifting up and everything, and then the tracks would become loose, and then basically the trains would derail. This is the option that I've been showing through my model railway club, and I'm not going to say that this is probably the best presentation of doing it, because my soldering isn't exactly the best, as you can probably see. I've just given it a good old go, and it all works, so that's the main thing. So the first thing you're going to need in all of this, well, I'll give you a few sort of things that you're going to need. Is you need some liquid flux, that's what I've been using, or some flux of some description. Also your soldering iron, scrap card, and you're going to need, I don't know if I told you this before, I think I showed you this on another weathering video. Yes, they're back, the plastic closed pegs that I've been using, and they're coming back as well. Some Yoo-hoo, and also you're going to need like your drill bits and things like that. Now what I've done is, really on the lift up section you don't really want any points or anything like that in truth, and you'd really want the track to be straight in an ideal world, but unfortunately I've sort of had to make a few compromises, but it all works. Now if you're going to, a tip, if you are going to put a point on the lift up section, make sure you put it in the middle and not on an end, so you don't ruin it. At least that way, if this section gets ruined, the bit that you're going to be replacing is just going to be between there and there, as opposed to an expensive point. So the point's sitting there right in the middle. As you can see, I've marked out the hole for the centre, which I've now cut and done, and basically this is all finished. I'm just going to quickly show you, and there's a few important things to note whilst doing this if you're going to use this system, purely because it's a must, and I'll come to that as we'll get to it. Now if you're going to use this copper clad sleeper system, I have a bag here of copper strips, and I'll take one of them out for you so you can see. Some of you may have come across this already, some of you may not. I was kind enough to be given some from a member from my model railway club, and as you can see it's a copper strip, and on the back of it it's just copper clad. So the bit that you're interested in is the copper bit itself on the top, and that forms that bit there. Now the reason why you need the the card is because if you put it, I don't know if I'll try and see if I can put it on the floor. I don't know if you can sort of see it as I'm seeing it. You can see that there's a difference between the height of the sleeper and the height of the copper clad. So what you do is you bolster that up by using some scrap card, and then what you do is you just cut a strip off, and what you need to do then is you glue the strip on. Well, actually let me take it a step back, actually, because that's actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. What I've done is actually I've cut unused sleepers whilst cutting the flexi track, and this is just a spare sleeper, and what I've done is basically I've cut the length of the copper clad to the length of the sleeper, and then I've glued it individually onto the card, and then the clothes pegs, glued them using a U-hoo, basically. That's it there. And what you get is something like this, and you're thinking, where's the strip? But if I take the clothes pegs, and the reason for the clothes pegs is to make good contact between the card and the copper clad. There you go. And this is now got a strip of just 2 because I've already used 2 already. So this is now all glued, and then all you do is you just trim it, and I'll show you what it looks like once it's trimmed. In front of you is one of these sleepers that I've actually trimmed, and this is how it looks like that. And it's the same length as a regular sleeper. There's a regular sleeper there. And actually this one's actually a bit broken, so it's actually a bit shorter, but you get the general idea. So you've just used the plastic sleeper as a template to mark out the length that you've needed, and then as you can see the layer there, that you've got the card, and then it's layered with the copper clad, and that gives it the height. In fact, it's slightly higher, but it's better to be slightly higher than slightly lower because it will sit better and it will glue better and make better contact. And then you have just 2 lengths, and these 2 lengths are just these 2 lengths here, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the next bit is extremely important, because it's copper clad, and when you electrify it you will create a short between the 2 sides. Now the way to get rid of that is, as you can see on these 2 and all of these, as you can see that there's a common line that runs across from left to right, and that's because they've been scored with a scalpel to break the contact in the middle so it doesn't short. And it's very important you do that, because if you don't, your trains won't run properly. I mean, once you've ballasted it and painted it up and everything, you won't even notice that, but the point being is that this is a very important step if you're going to use this system of joining the joints between this board, as you can see, and that board there. As you can see, there's a common line, and this is where it lifts up. So there's also a feed here and a feed there, and because this is the lift up end, there's a plug underneath, and I'll show you that in just a minute. Whereas at the other end it's hardwired between A and B because it's just hinged, but because this one's actually going to be the lifted up section, there's a plug underneath which I will show you. Here underneath the board is just a follow plug, and it's a quick plug and play thing, and when you want to disconnect it, all you've got to do is push the 2 apart, and then it will just come apart, and then when you want to use it you just plug it back in, and it's as simple as that, and that will work just like that. And that's for the lift up section. If I take you down to the other end, you can see that these 2 ends are just hardwired in from one end to the other end, and it's just hinged, one there and there's a hinge there, so they are just hardwired in. Once again you can see that there's that common line across there where they've been scored to make sure that there isn't going to be a short when the trains go over. Now the one way to know, one of the telltale signs that you have got a short is if basically you run your train at a normal speed and it goes really quickly when it's running. But then if you noticeably see that you've got quite a lot of power on it, it's still not going very fast, or just moving slowly, then you know you've got a short somewhere along the line. It's just to find out where. So you need to make sure that you do, like I said, it's very important that you score them. Like I said, there's score there, and all the rest of it on there. And it all works, it's all fine. I mean, like I said, it's not, what I'm going to be doing now is, before I do any ballasting or anything like that, I'll be test running this for a little while. See if there's any faults with it, anything comes to light. And if so, then I'll rectify it, and if not, and I'm happy enough, I will then ballast it, and basically just ballast it, disguise it and all the rest of it, and you won't even know any of that is there. But that's how you do it. If you have any questions for me, then by all means ask. It's not that difficult to do. The difficult part that I've had is actually sourcing the copper clad bits themselves, these strips. And like I said, it's only because one of my colleagues, one of my friends at the Model Railway Club has kindly donated me a small bag. And when I say a small bag, it's actually quite a lot in there, because I've already used quite a few strips, and out of this one strip I get 4 sleepers out of it. And basically the general rule of thumb is, if I take you back down there, is 2 and 2. So you've got 2 on the one side, 2 on the other side, and that will give you a good strength and good contact, and that's generally the way to do it, and not just rely on one in case one of them gets damaged or anything like that, or there's a problem with the first one. So that's sort of the general rule, is to use 2 and 2. And that's pretty much how I've done it, and that's excuse me, pretty much the length of the layout update. And if you just pan out slightly, you can see I wanted it to be a gentle curve to make it nice and easy. I also wanted to put a long point in here, so all my bigger locos like the 60s, the 50s, I'm not going to have issues crossing over this point. And we're sort of creeping slowly towards the C-link end of it. And as far as scenery is going to be concerned, the road from here will continue to come down, and it will just sort of sweep off, and basically it's going to be a cutting all the way through, and the town scene is going to be actually extended all the way out to this end as well. And that's also going to be like the seam section which I did earlier, which is going to be another sort of lift out section. So that's going to kind of be my next sort of plan, is working out how I'm going to be doing that. I've already been looking on the internet for some photographs of various shops of the 80s and things like that, and buildings, and trying to see if maybe I can replicate some of that. So we're going to see how that pans out. Lastly, before I go, is this, I've just show you my recent new addition and member to the Berringer family, and this is a Hornby Intercity Class 73204 Stuart's Lane, and it's actually in the earlier livery which they used on the Gatwick Express for a short period before they had the dedicated livery, and which you can actually buy. And I've got this one recently, and I got it for a great price, pretty much a bargain. It's, like I said, it's a Hornby version. It runs nicely, so it has been test run, but with all the work I've been doing back here, I haven't had much chance to really run it, in truth, because I've just been sort of extending the layout. So ever but slowly but surely the layout's increasing in length. It's really nice livery. There's no marks on it or anything. It's second hand, it's not new, but it's in lovely nick, and I've got a nice rake of Mark II Intercity coaches in this livery, so yeah, it will run well with that once we get going. And hopefully, like I said, now we can use the Berringer Underground station, actually get the trains running through the station. So my next job is going to be trying to work out the scenery and how I'm going to blend it all in and link it all together. That's all from me. Thanks for watching. Please feel free to comment and subscribe as always, and take care, and I will speak to you soon. Bye for now.